Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
I'm Steve Majiri, host of KU Live. Tune in every Tuesdays at 2 p.m. for all things Kutztown University. We will discuss everything ranging from school news, sports, and upcoming events, along with frequent appearances from student government to discuss new policies. We will also have members of ACE, the Association of Campus Events, to come in weekly to discuss what new activities are coming to the university. Tune in to 1670 AM or listen to us online at www.kutztown.edu/KUR or on your smartphone by downloading the TuneIn app. You can also listen to us via any phone by calling 610-465-7860. KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University. KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University. KUR Kutztown. Hey everyone, welcome to KU Live. The time right now is about 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Steve Majiri. We have an excellent show for you today, and we're just going to start it off with a professor from the health department that I remember taking her class 2 years ago, and it's one of those few classes where, I hold on to the notes because the information is just so important and information that I'm going to use in the rest of my life pretty much. And we're here to talk about student health with Professor Bernadette Bamberger of the health department, or the sports management department, excuse me. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. And now, I remember when I took the class, that's something we talked a lot about is just the nutritional choices and just the health choices in general with college students. What's the biggest issues you see with student health on campus?
From a personal standpoint and from teaching the class itself, a lot of people are probably going to go right to alcohol and drugs as being one of the big problems, especially with Thirsty Thursday and all the drinking that you see in town and problems. But when I teach the class, I do a lot of activities in the class, and one of the biggest things I see a problem with is stress. People don't see it externally unless you see it on their face, possibly. Right. But stress can do a whole lot of damage internally to the body, and I think a lot of students don't realize how much it can damage the body and how much it can impede academic success over time. So, from my standpoint and from all the health classes that I have taught, I think that's probably one of the bigger issues, even though it's not something that's out in the forefront that people see. But when you talk about your own health, I think that's probably one of the bigger ones that you look at.
Oh, absolutely. I remember you mentioning that. And not just, the stress from school, but a lot of students have some financial stress. If they failed this course, that's an extra semester, and they could be paying college out of pocket. So that can be a big stressful factor as well.
Yeah, and they're always, some of them have full-time jobs, some of them have part-time jobs, some of them are non-traditional students with families, some are involved in sports, some are involved in band, other extracurricular activities, clubs.
As a whole.
It's just, there's a lot of stress in the world this day and age, and it's, how well we cope with it can make a big difference on our overall health as we age.
I agree. It can be very hard to compartmentalize all of that at times. And now on a nutritional standpoint, what do you believe is the worst nutritional decision that students make?
I think one of the biggest ones, and a lot of my students laugh, is that they don't eat breakfast. They eat a lot of empty calories, but I think that's one of the bigger problems too, and some of them eat too much. But I think one of the biggest things they look at is that they do not eat breakfast, which kind of makes a snowball effect throughout the day. So now you go to lunch, you haven't had anything to eat, the tank is getting lower, just like in a car.
Even hungrier.
Your blood sugar level is dropping, and now you're starving, so now you eat way more than you should, and then that continues throughout the day, so you're eating a lot of your calories later in the day when you're not as active as, and it's kind of the jump start to your day. It helps get the blood sugar level going, it kind of acts as a sugar boost, so to speak, and makes you more alert throughout the day, so you can do better in your classes.
Right, and eating later is always the worst thing, because I remember you said this in class that when you're eating late at night, especially late night eating is so bad because your metabolism's low, your body's in like a resting mode, meaning it's not going to process that, and it's going to have to wait till the next day, and it just it starts building up. It just keeps pushing the process away, and that's a great point. And I remember you also talked a lot about South Dining Hall's food. Do you think it has sufficient nutritional value?
I think it does. I don't personally eat there a whole lot during the school year because I eat at my desk,
right.
Which isn't always a good thing because you should get away from your stress. And the times that I've been in there, they have a great salad bar that anybody can, a lot of variety on the salad bar. There's the main area in the where they carve turkey or prime rib, and you can get a lot of healthy varieties in South Dining Hall. They have the bread area also that has soups, so if you're interested in soups that are very nutritional, you can get those. So there's such a wide variety there that it's hard to say there isn't anything nutritious that is there. It's just what the students that complain about it are, maybe they haven't opened their
expanded their view,
expanded the taste buds, and
right.
and they don't want to try other things. We're behaviors. We're creatures of behavior. We come from home, and we're so used to what our mom and dad cook for us, and we don't want to experiment. But there's a lot of food in there that's nutritious. It's just whether we choose to put it on our plate or not.
Right. That nutritional anarchy was something I really had trouble with getting used to when I came in. And the other thing, one thing I have noticed is that I felt like South Dining Hall food never had enough fiber, because I always felt like I had to just stuff my face full of food just to feel full. And I understand it's made in mass quantity because you have to feed a lot of students. Do you think that the quality of the food suffers because they have to make it in such large amounts?
I'm not sure it suffers. I think maybe some of the, using canned products versus fresh products, you get to that side of it. But I think you still, whether you're using noodles or cheese or milk, it's just in high quality or quantities that you have to utilize them. So I don't think that's much the case when it comes to, making food in masses. You can still make it nutritious. It's just what you choose to put in it. Right.
And also I know lunch meat is not the lunch meat there isn't that great either, but it's just that, they have to feed a lot of students, and
Right.
you make a good point. Salad is kind of harder to, modify, and if you want something healthy, there's plenty of it there. You just gotta keep exploring and filter out all the bad stuff.
Well, and you don't have to make it a main course every time. That's where people
Right.
get tired of eating salads. Maybe just have a small side salad and a couple pieces, of chicken or something like that, instead of eating the vegetables, if you want to choose to do that.
Right. And there also is the meal plan. A lot of students I've talked to don't like it because it's relegated to like time blocks. And do you approve of that? Like, say if someone has like classes throughout that time and doesn't even have time for lunch.
Yeah,
and they can't even use it.
that's the hard part when you come to the meal plan. Sometimes using the flex dollars it could be a little easier, because then you can eat other places on campus. And I know, I have 2 kids in college and 1 in grad school right now. So we started with meal plans and ended up going with lower meal plans and more flex dollars because of that, because of them maybe not being able to get to the dining hall because of athletic events that they had going on.
Your son is on the football team, so he's very busy.
And my other 2 are basketball players, so it's,
Right.
A lot of times they don't get to eat when the cafeteria is open, so then you resort to other less nutritional options
Quicker.
that you may have out there.
Right. And, like you said about how, sometimes they don't have time to go to the dining hall. There are other options. There's the forum and there's the sub. And I'll admit that the sub is not the best. It's a lot of calories in the sub, and a lot of food there isn't really the best nutritional choices. Do you think the university doesn't have enough really healthy options outside of South Dining Hall?
Well, I think you have to start looking at, and this also happens in the public school systems too, they try to add like whole wheat bread to the meal plan,
Right.
and the students don't like it, so then you have a cost factor that gets involved, and if they're throwing away nutritious
They're losing
food,
money.
they're losing money. So you have to look at both sides of it when it comes to that, and when you're trying to feed your audience, you want to give them what
You have to
they
appeal to them.
like. Yeah. So it's not to say there aren't nutritional options out there.
Right.
It's just, what the students really want, and that's going to make it easier on the pocketbook when it comes to
Right.
purchasing the items. But even over in the forum, because I teach over there, you can see there are options.
There are.
They have turkey wraps and stuff like that, but it's whether the students want that or a slice of pizza.
I agree. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. And that's something else. The bad choices are what lead to the dreaded freshman 15. What do you think is the best way to avoid it, the freshman 15?
That would be, and it's easy to say, be more active, eat less calories. But one of the problems you see with students, especially those that played 2-3 sports in high school, is they come to college and they're not involved in sports anymore.
That's what I did.
So their activity level decreases tremendously during the day. They sit around a lot more during the day, and even at night they're not very active. And then all of a sudden we go back to, we don't eat breakfast, so now we eat way more at lunch, we consume more at dinner, and then when students stay up late to study, they munch. And they're going to eat, whatever's, available. And if they don't have, fruit or whatever in their room, then they're going to snack on poor items. And all of a sudden your caloric intake is now way over what your activity level is. And then the 15 just starts building up.
It can build up fast. That's for sure. And I remember in the dorms, that was another issue because of how, there's not really, you have a microwave and a fridge.
Correct.
You can't really cook. My dorm had one kitchen in the basement. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to beat the other 150 kids to get a chance to cook there? And
correct. So it's easy to go to the store and buy microwavable macaroni and cheese and ramen noodle and those
Guilty.
things that are
I did at one point.
Very convenient.
And then I looked at the salt intake. I'm like, no. But yeah, I mean, we've all done it at some point. And another thing, like you said, the best way to just avoid that is to stay active. And there's the student rec center, which I think they do a great job there. Do you think because I remember you actually mentioned that it's a little small for 10,000 students. Do you think the student rec center has all the resources to keep students healthy and active?
I think they do. What you have to do is really plan. Go there a couple times during the day and see when there's a lot of students there and plan around it, or use the classes. They offer a lot of classes in the evening it's more practical for the students to go at that time of day. There's also a nutritionist that's involved through the dining services that you can contact. She's usually on campus once a month or once every 2 months that you could sit down and talk to her. I don't have her card with me, but I do offer it to the students in my health class, and she should be at the health fair on October 30th. That's where I met her last spring, so that's another place that students could go to talk to her. But in terms of the rec center, the cardio, they have all the cardio, they have the free weights, they have the selectorized machines, they have the track upstairs. You have the field house, you have the racquetball courts, you have the track behind it. So there's all kinds of things for the students to do. It's kind of like eating, you got to pick and choose, and it's whether the students want to go and actually do it.
Right, and it's also the mention of how they have to balance out their time, and that can be tough. And then there are times, when a lot of students are done with class. You said this around 6 o'clock. That's when the rush is. The place is packed. You're going to have to wait in line just to get a free weight. And what do you think is the best way for students to balance a full workload and, time to exercise?
Well, I think what you need to do, and it's kind of looking at, if you're wanting to get exercise in and it's a behavior change for you, is actually looking at your schedule and go through your day and see when you're most available. And I suggest to students to put it in their calendar as a schedule that they would have, or a meeting that they would have with their professor, or, a meeting that, their class meeting in general. Make it like it's an appointment, and then you are less likely to cancel that appointment than if you just say, well, I'm just going to go to the gym at this time.
Right. I remember you had a behavior change assignment regarding that. Did I take your class? I think I might have. Yeah, and I've learned a lot from it. I recommend it. And another thing you mentioned was how sometimes students, have to get low-quality food. It's also, I think there's monetary implications in that. Students, a lot of students are on a tight budget, and finances are a big stressor. Do you think that, it's overpriced, some of the food here?
I don't think it's overpriced in general. They're basically keeping up with society. I mean, if you start looking at the price at the grocery store, they're having to pay, the price for people to bring it into the dining hall. So, unfortunately, the price is going to continue to go up. I went shopping the other day. A ground sirloin was, I think it was $3.78 a pound when we moved here.
Wow.
It's now $4.98 a pound. So you start looking at the
Supply and demand.
Yeah, and it just becomes an issue. And I don't think, and even if they don't buy here, it is a little pricier to eat healthy, but I think it's more so that students look for convenience.
Yeah.
And
we're in a society where people want things done yesterday.
Yes.
And sometimes there are problems, because I noticed this that just today. I mean, I don't drink a lot of soda, but I saw that, and I was getting my lunch today. I got a nice, salad, and I saw that it costs more to get a bottle of water than it does to get a soda. And I'm thinking that's just, then you're not preaching health at all. You're just preaching, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Yeah, convenience.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a solution. You just go to get a fountain drink and get the water. But you know what I mean. And another thing we just said, you mentioned about how there are courses in the evening to make sure you get exercise. And you're a certified exercise specialist by the American College of Sports Medicine. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Okay, good. What courses do you teach that that are predicated around health and fitness and being active?
Well, besides the health class I teach, I also have a personal fitness class. I usually teach 1 or 2 a semester, and that is actually an activity class that students can take that they learn to design their own exercise program based on cardiovascular fitness and strength training fitness and flexibility. So that's offered just usually Monday and Wednesdays. It's a 50-minute class, and you learn how to develop your own program, and then you actually do your program during the class time, and then you're evaluated pre and post to see what your results are throughout the course. And the exercise physiology class I teach, that is a academic class, but that is basically how does exercise affect all the systems of the body acutely and chronically. So when you go to the gym, what happens to the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the endocrine system then, and then over months or weeks, what happens to you
what kind of
chronically.
results?
Right.
And it's just, it's like you mentioned.
If you continue to train, what's going to happen?
A specific type of training, too, and we learned a lot about that.
Yes.
And another thing we wanted to mention is how, I believe we have this right here, that with students, when a lot of them sometimes, just when they work out, they have different types of workouts. Some are, more beneficial. Some are, I've seen a lot of kids in the gym just do like bodybuilding, and that's not very healthy. Are you a fan of, students having to work just for power when they work out? Because I remember you mentioned, there's 3 types: working for power, I think
strength and endurance,
yes,
and
strength
toning.
endurance.
When you're doing resistive training, and a lot of it is based on your goals. So if that's their goal, then that's fine, because that's what actually gets them in the gym to do their workout.
They have to commit themselves, that's
yes,
for sure.
So you look at it from that extent. I've always been brought up on you should always do cardiovascular and resistive training. That's what my schooling was. So I do cardiovascular training 5 days a week. I do strength training 3 days a week myself. But for those that aren't, that don't like to do the cardiovascular training, they get more into the strength training and the resistive training, and if that's what it takes for them to get to the gym, then that's a good thing, because they're in the gym and they're working out, and they're gaining benefits from it. The cardiovascular system may not be gaining as many benefits from it,
but it's helping, your heart rate, which is going to help you in the end.
because you're going to elevate your heart rate with all the training that you're doing. So
right. And on that topic, I mean, I'm sure you've having 3 kids that are athletes, and I'm sure as your husband is the athletic director, you probably see, a fair amount of athletes, and some of them, as an example, the wrestlers, and then, they have to make weight. They have a very strict diet. I highly doubt a lot of them keep to their coach's diet, and I'm not. This is just, subjective. I'm not, trying to bash the wrestling team here. I just remember one kid, a friend of mine, I'm going to remain anonymous. The kid had to, drop some weight, and he dropped 10 pounds in a week. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know, how, that's just, what are your thoughts? A lot of fluid. Yeah, a lot of fluid.
A lot of fluid weight, and, that's the rigors of that sport. It's not just wrestling. You see it also with gymnastics. You may even see it with swimmers, because of them having to be in a suit and show their body, so to speak. But it's not healthy, but it is the demands of the sport, and if that's what you choose to do, that's what you have to do.
And some of them actually lose weight the wrong way. Some of them just don't eat, and
right.
they just sweat it out, and that's just you're going to lose all of these nutrients in your body, and you're just not going to your performance might suffer. But that's just they know that they've got backlash if they don't make weight. And I remember you said, I believe it was you said the correct amount of weight to lose is half a pound a week.
Well, it's about 1 to 2. Yeah,
1 to 2.
1 to 2, and they're actually looking at possibly changing that down to 1, and that way you're losing mostly fat weight and not muscle mass or fluid weight when they lose 10 pounds a week, and you can even bring up with that fact the show The Biggest Loser. Because that's what that's designed for. It's for them to have the huge weight loss over the time that they're at the ranch. And they are eating nutritionally, but it's a job for them. And so when people look at that show, the reality is your job is something else, and you have to fit your exercise in around your job. Their job at the ranch is just to exercise the whole time they're there. So it's a lot easier for them to lose that kind of weight. And so then you have to go back and look at, now where are they 6 months from now? Where are they a year from now?
What really
How
matters.
have they fit that into their lifestyle?
Yeah, they've
been able to drop 100, 125 pounds, but can you keep it off?
Right.
And that's the key.
You got to turn it into a lifestyle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It's always an important topic that will always be plenty to talk about regarding student health.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more KU Live.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
November 22nd, 1963 is a day that will live forever. President John F. Kennedy was gunned down in Dallas, Texas. It is sad to think that 50 years later the conspiracies are still flying from every direction about who was responsible. Hello, my name is Brianna Bennett, and I would believe that we need to take the time to remember the president not as a victim of gunfire, but as a dedicated leader. He believed in unity and strength, and if it meant beating the Soviets, then it was well worth it. In his address to a joint section of Congress on May 25, 1961, President Kennedy spoke not only of a need to explore space as one person, but as a nation. He's asking for the financial support to make the exploration happen, to put an American man on the moon. He wants not only the support of Congress, but of the American people. Despite the huge sum of money that he asked for, the president's use of patriotism and the nation's unifying ideals began a new era in American history. On September 12, 1962, a little over a year later, the president spoke again at Rice University, giving an update on the status of the space race. Both speeches proved not only that President Kennedy had a strong devotion to his country and his cause, but making sure that the United States had its rightful place in space. As he says in the speech at Rice, "We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding."
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information, or to hear this segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Looking for exceptional research and fieldwork opportunities? The Chincoteague Bay Field Station is an environmental education facility located on the eastern shore of Virginia. We offer a variety of college courses each summer ranging from geology and biology to literature and marine science. For years, Kutztown University students have come to the field station to participate in cutting-edge research and gain practical experiences that help them secure a job in their field. Find out how you can get involved today at cbfieldstation.org. That's cbfieldstation.org.
1-800-222-1222. 1-800-222-1222. If you think it might be poison, then the first thing you should do is call 1-800-222-1222. Poison can be anything you're not supposed to take. Antifreeze, pesticide, the wrong drug by mistake. If you breathe the nasty chemical, been bitten by a snake. Call the Poison Control Center hotline. We're here for you night or day.
For a poison or drug emergency at home or at work, just call the Poison Control Center hotline. We're here 24/7 with the expert help you need. Free and confidential. Even if you think it's a false alarm, call
1-800-222-1222 or 1-800-222-1222. If you think it might be poison and you don't know what to do, call 1-800-222-1222.
A message from your Poison Control Center.
Newsbreak is a student-run news program produced right here at Kutztown University. It features stories that affect the Lehigh Valley, as well as Berks County weather and KU sports. You can watch on Service Electric Berks and on Kutztown University campus on Channel 24 and on Hometown Utilicom Channel 28. KU TV Newsbreak. What are you watching?
KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University, and Golden Bears football is your winning combination this fall. KUR is now your official radio source for all KU football broadcasts on the road. I'm Matt Santos. Join me live from the booth in my 23rd season of Covering the Team as my special guests and I bring you each and every exciting play from the 2014 road slate. We'll be at Slippery Rock, Gannon, Millersville, East Stroudsburg, Shippensburg, and Clarion, wherever the Golden Bears go. All broadcasts will begin 10 minutes before kickoff. That's KU football on the road, all this season on KUR, your exclusive radio home for Kutztown University Golden Bears football.
Attention December graduates. KUSSI is sponsoring the Fall 2014 Graduation Festival on Tuesday, October 28th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the multipurpose room of the Student Union Building. The Graduation Festival is a one-stop shop for all of your December graduation needs. You will be able to verify the status of your graduation application, purchase your cap and gown, receive graduation tickets, order your class ring and announcements, and much more. The festivities will include giveaways and a chance to win one of our great graduation gift packages. All December graduates must attend the Fall 2014 Graduation Festival. If you are unable to attend this event or would like more information, please contact Matt Lothar, the Student Services Coordinator for KUSSI, at 484-646-4338 prior to the event. Congratulations! It's time!
Hi, hon. I thought you were coming home early.
Yeah.
What's the matter? What happened?
And I realized today just how much I really love you.
What do you mean?
I almost got killed today.
Oh, my God.
I was rushing home to catch the game. There was a train coming. I thought I could beat it.
Billy.
I was just about to go around the gate. Something made me slam on the brakes.
Oh, thank God.
Coffee went everywhere.
I'm so glad you're all right.
Wasn't worth the risk. Never see you again. Never smell your hair.
Don't even say that.
Never see you walk.
I love you.
I'm sorry.
It takes a mile for a train to stop. Don't try to beat a train, or someone you love will get hurt. Look, listen, and live. This message brought to you by Operation Lifesaver and this station.
KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University. KUR Kutztown. Hey everyone, welcome back to KU Live. The time right now is about 2:33 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Steve Majiri, and we have our next guest. She just opened up a counseling center, or her own counseling center on Main Street. Her name is Susan Shelly, and she just recently graduated with a master's degree in mental health and counseling here at KU. And just want to say thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. All right, now we'll just start out. You got a master's degree in Kutztown, yet you attended your undergrad at University of Maryland. What made you choose Kutztown's master's program?
Well, I live in Bucks County, and so I looked at local schools in my area within driving distance, and I came up and met the staff up here. I met Dr. Herrick, and I just liked what the program had to offer.
That's great. And so you've just started. When did your when did you first open?
I graduated last May, and I just opened my center this month.
That's great. And what do you specialize in? As mental health and counseling is, sort of a broad term. What do you say would you specialize in?
I don't know that you can specialize in one particular thing when you do mental health counseling because problems manifest themselves in so many different ways. Basically, what I can tell you is what I provide for people in my office is an opportunity for them to be exactly who they are. Take the masks off, be exactly who they are, provide the space for them to say what they need to say and be who they are for real, and help them to kind of get through whatever it is that's causing them trouble.
That's great. And as we've talked about before, we've had members of the counseling service here at the university come on, and they've talked about how college students, stress is always permeating their minds. They've always got so much on their mind and so much pressure on them. What's the best way to sort of remedy those, those stress levels?
Well, stress is a result of your perception of what the situation is, right? So the first thing you need to do is just kind of pause. Think about what it is you're stressing over. Your perception of that situation is what's causing your stress. If you can look at the situation differently, change your perception of the situation. Instead of telling yourself, I'm overwhelmed, I've got too much work to do, I'm not going to get it done, stop for a moment. Realize first that you've probably been in this situation before where your plate's been full and you've handled it. And then think about what your resources are. Can you ask for help? Who can you ask for help from? Too often we're just afraid to say, I can't do this all by myself, as though if I ask for help, then I'm weaker or lesser than the next person.
I agree.
So, ask for help, plan accordingly, realize that you can get through it. And if by some chance you don't meet every deadline you have, people, especially in the university community, are so willing to work with you.
That's true, yes, because that's something that, it's something a lot of my professors have talked about. They said, my students are overworked. Sometimes the content of the work suffers because they don't have the time to really juggle all of it. Some kids have to work just to pay for their tuition or housing or food, and some students have to take a large number of credits in order to graduate on time, and it can really, just pile up on them. And as a student, you went to University of Maryland and you got your master's. What do you believe, from your experience of many years in school, is the biggest stressor, should I say, from a student in any kind of educational situation?
The biggest stressor? Well, that would depend. If they're living away from home, it could be a new environment, not having that support system at home. But I think probably across the boards is that need to achieve and be the best, that they have to be better than the person sitting next to them. And they really don't. They just have to do the best that they can do. So this competition, this competitiveness that happens.
Right. So you believe that students are almost subconsciously competing with others to try and, validate themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone's looking for that 4.0.
True.
I've never had anybody ask me my GPA.
I agree, and that's something that they all mention. GPA is sort of it's just my personal thoughts. I believe GPA is important, but people sort of inflate its value. Your GPA, it'll maybe your first employer will look at it, but then your next job, they're not going to look at your college stuff as much. They're going to look, okay, this person graduated. That's all I need to know. Then they look at your previous job, and that's great. So I'm assuming you'd be willing to work with college students on this?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. The center's open to anybody. Come on down, just have a talk with me. And if you're in any kind of stress, if there's anything going on in your life that's not working, I think for a lot of students, they're wearing a lot of masks right now. They're pretending everything's fine on the outside when inside they might be having a difficult time and they're afraid to admit it.
I agree. And so did that sort of was one of the deciding factors aside from locations? Was that one of the deciding factors, the fact that you'd have, nearly 10,000 potential students to work with?
Actually, what brought me to Kutztown was I was a graduate assistant last year over at the Health Promotions Office, and I had a lot of students coming in, and when their needs weren't being met for whatever reason on campus, they really had no alternative. You either need to drive to Reading or you need to drive to Allentown. There was nothing within walking distance. So I just wanted to provide a space for them where if they needed someone to talk to, they could walk down the street.
Oh, that's a great idea, and it's a very intelligent way of looking at it, because the counseling center themselves, they say, beginning of the year, they fill up like that. Like I just snap my fingers like that fast. And it's something where their schedule is so rigid because there's only a finite number of them, yet there's such a large number of students here, and so many of them deal with the same stress all the time that it's very hard for them to just fit them in the schedule. And now that's great that we have someone within town outside of the university and an independent entity who can help students out. So so how's the business been going so far? Have you been getting any clients so far?
The phones have started to ring. So this is the kind of process where you're not opening a candy store. People aren't. It's not retail. They're not lining up at the door. At this stage of the game, we're just kind of letting people know that we're there. We're available.
That's great. And so, what do you? We just might as well ask. It's just something that a lot of people want to do. But what inspires you to want to work in counseling?
Usually most counselors I speak with have had some sort of personal struggle of their own, and so they can identify, and I'm no different than that. I've had my own dealings with depression and dealing with low self-esteem. You asked earlier what I thought my specialty might be, and if I had to pick one, I would say it's working with people who are coming from either alcoholic family systems or dysfunctional family systems that don't fit that perfect family image, and as a result, they're having a hard time figuring out how to operate in this world, and they think it's their fault. They're not realizing why they can't quite get it right. So that was my experience, and it took me a while to figure out what the rules are and how to show up.
Right. That's a great reason, and I agree with that. It's sort of like students are almost from different backgrounds. It's like they're almost a victim of circumstance. They say, "All right, it's almost my fault," and it's not. That's just where you were, and therein lies, I believe, the competitive element in that, on why students want to compete and say, "Hey, I'm not this kid from some less fortunate home than this other guy," and I can see where the competition comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because myself, I grew up in a very nice area outside of Philadelphia, very fortunate, and I've seen a lot of different things, and that's helped. Yet, I'm curious. What I don't know. I'm not sure if I've asked this. What do you believe is the reason why students want to just compete? Why is they believe that GPA is such a big parameter of intelligence or something when it's really not?
If you look at how society gauges success, right? You're only
There's no
successful if you're at the top of the heap. I don't think many people go around saying, "How are you feeling today?
Right.
Do you like yourself today?" Right?
Mood
how are you
swing.
handling your life?
Right. Mood swings could change based off simply of a test grade.
Right.
Because, I remember back freshman year, I had a lot of on my plate. It was more work thrown at me than I could have imagined. And a lot of times I thought that, okay, wow, I didn't do well on my first, on this exam. If I didn't do well on an exam, I think, okay, well, now I feel just like awful. I feel like I'm like the bottom of the spectrum. How do you sort of help students get through, or anyone who feels like they're at the bottom and work their way up? What techniques, I'm just going to pick your brain there a little.
Well, again, it comes down to perception, right? How do we perceive the situation? And we can go into it and we can decide that test grade is going to define us and say, look at me, I'm going to compare myself to everybody else and I'm going to decide that I'm less than. Or I can just look at myself and say, did I do the best I can? My test grade is going to indicate to me, do I need some help in this area or am I competent in this area? That's all your test grades are telling you. But we use it as a comparative to judge ourselves against each other, which is unfortunate, right? But if you get a bad test grade, it's very helpful if we can detach from our grades in terms of our self-worth. Your grades do not define you. Some people excel at some things and some people excel at other things. But as I was saying earlier, the society, unfortunately, when we say what is success, we're looking at those people who are at the top position in their jobs, the top of their class at school, the top.
Correct. And that's actually a false representation of what society looks for, because you can look at a lot of politicians. They weren't, all A students. They went to good schools, but still, not every great, really successful person had great grades in college. Some did, but some didn't. But GPA, like you said, that's I always keep hitting that point because it's so difficult, and it leads to so much stress because and I'll just give my own anecdotal evidence here. Some of our internships that we're applying to in my major for the spring that we need to graduate that are for credit, they have GPA requirements. And that limits a lot of us. And if it's in the field we want to work in, we all of a sudden, there's a standard we have to hold ourselves. And that's going to for all we know, students may not be good test takers. And that's big, that impacts your GPA a lot. And that often, that if you don't reach it there, it just really hurts you. So I certainly agree with that. But okay, I'll just end on this. Since you are a startup, we'd like to say, what would be the message you'd like to give to our listeners as to how you can help them?
I am available, as I said, to provide a space for them just to come and talk and take off the mask, be who they are. There's no discomfort that's too insignificant. I'm down on Main Street. Just come by and say hi.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. And just to say one more thing, her name is Susan Shelly. She works on 181 Main Street, Kutztown, Pennsylvania. And just one more thing, what are your hours? Just so they know.
It's by appointment. Just give me a call. The name of the center is Then You Stand Enrichment Center.
Okay, so then just one more thing. The number is 267-377-5598. That is 267-377-5598. And her name's Susan Shelly. She works at 181 Main Street in Kutztown. Okay, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, and stay tuned for more KU Live.